Do 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 do. Welcome to Thursday Morning Conversations. I am Doodle Harris, Associate Pastor at Highland Presbyterian Church. I'm glad you're with us, and today we have two very special guests. They are from our Worship and Arts Committee at Highland, a new committee that we have, and they're going to tell you all about it. But I'd like to introduce you to Hannah Thomas.
Hello.
And Patty Hartog.
Hello.
And before we get too far, Patty, you are in a car. Do you mind telling our viewers why you're tuning in from the car?
It was not my original intention to tune in from a car, but we got the exciting news today that our daughter is heading to the hospital to have her baby about 2 weeks early. So this was a surprise. Doodle kindly let me adjust my plans so I can do both. I can be here and be there. So.
Well, I'm glad you did. I hope you'll tell Rachel that we say hi and good luck and just so many great things.
I will. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm going to start with some announcements before we talk about the work that the Worship and Arts Committee is doing. This Saturday at Highland Presbyterian Church is our work day, and the property committee would love it if you could come from 9 to 12. They usually provide some productivity potion known as coffee. If you come and help out with some of their projects around the church this Saturday at 9 o'clock, if you are available. This Sunday morning, we hope to begin our outdoor worship services. Again, we couldn't last week. It was a little too cold, but if the rain holds off, we'll be on for this week at 9 o'clock in the front lawn of Blue Mobley, which also happens to be when we'll be ordaining and installing our new church officers. So if you're a church officer, a new one, you should be there. I hope it's on your calendar, but everyone else is certainly welcome to come and participate in that worship service. We also have some birthdays for this week to celebrate. So join me in saying happy birthday to Beverly Carrico, Doug Slagle, Ann Cash Barkley, Ben Nodler, Leah Pye, Sonia Brown, Niraj Igbert, Mike Kirk, Joy Blandon, who just happens to be our best accountant ever at Highland Press. Happy birthday, Joy. I'm grateful to you. Laura Kramer, Nancy Tribune, Elizabeth Anderson, Richard Chilton, Sarah Jones, Sandy Miller, Zachary Owens, Robert Tillett, Jack Dalworth, Sarah Macy, and Bill Smock. What a great lineup of birthdays for this week. I hope you all are finding safe and fun ways to celebrate with those that you live with. So now, Patty and Hannah, it's all about you. I have some questions. Before we talk about worship arts, tell me, how long have you been at Highland, and why have you stayed so long, or what makes Highland special to you?
Well, I came as a 3-year-old to the weekday school, and my mom started attending the church, and so I've transitioned into Sunday school, around the same time. And other than a 13-year stint in East Tennessee, I have been at Highland the whole time. And I realized when I was in Tennessee that Highland is very, very different from any other church that I've ever been to. I tried to find one when I was there, and either the congregation was all silver-haired, lovely, but silver-haired while I was in college, but the pastor was great, or the congregation was diverse and fabulous, and unfortunately the preaching was not so good. So I just never found the right combination that Highland provides. So that's why I'm still here.
Oh, that's a great story. What about you, Patty?
We actually started attending Highland about 30 years ago. A little bit like Hannah, we took a brief hiatus. We moved across the river from the Highlands to Southern Indiana. And after making the commute back and forth with small children, thought we'd give it a go to try to find a church in Southern Indiana. And we did that for a while, but we missed Highland. And after, like I said, about 10 years, we said, we tried to, we were searching around, and it was almost like a light bulb moment when we said, wait a minute, what about Highland Press, where we had continued to come back for Christmas services? So that was about the time our son Ted was about to start confirmation, which I think coincided with Doodle
It sure
coming
did.
on the scene. Yeah, and it just everything clicked. We love the people and the different groups that we've gotten involved in. We're really active in the Feasting on the Word Sunday school class. Larry and I, he's done session. I've done deacons. Our kids have loved Montreat. I mean, just have really plugged in and enjoyed everything we've done. And I would be remiss to not mention the music. That was a big pullback for us and continues to be. So
That's great. Thank you. So you've both been at Highland long enough that maybe you've acquired some Highland swag over the years. So my question is, do you have a favorite Highland Press t-shirt?
More than one favorite. And they're interestingly, they're a little diverse. So my absolute favorite is this Roots shirt that I tie-dyed. But then I also love this very recent Black Lives Matters, Highland Press. I'm very proud of Highland for having those printed up and distributed. But then my other favorite is this one. It's kind of hard to see because it's pale. And this was from our 2017 VBS Get Growing. And I just thought it was such a fabulous design. And I actually wear it frequently in the summertime. So those are my shirts.
That's great. That's a Kevin Byrne design.
Well, there we go.
So, Patty, did you pack a carload full of Highland Press t-shirts for your trip?
I could have, but I need to get into whatever Hannah's doing to get those cool shirts because those are fun. And I've also always enjoyed the shirts that when I've helped out with Bible school or the children's programs and photographing those, and it's always been a lot of fun to get the shirts from those events as a memento of that. So, and then the Montreat shirts are probably one of my favorites. I don't know if that counts as a Highland Press, but for me it does. So
we're happy.
I don't have any to model for you though. I don't have any samples with me.
Well, we need to get you one for your new grandchild soon anyway.
You do.
Well, you're both part of the Worship Arts Committee, sort of a new thing that's popped up at Highland in the last few months. And I guess my first question is, what is it? And how did you both, because I know you're both already super active, get involved with yet one more committee at Highland?
Well, I suppose that it's a more formal or intentional way of bringing other forms of art besides the music that we do all love so much at Highland into the worship services. We've had dance, we've had movement, and with being online now, being virtual, we've had a lot of images, paintings that exist, or photography incorporated into those. But it's now we actually have a group that are meeting regularly to figure out how we can intentionally bring more of that into worship and therefore involve more people from the congregation who paint or sculpt or want to move or bring a dramatic interpretation of something into our worship service and just make it a more enhanced experience.
What do you think, Patty?
I can't add a lot. I think Hannah said that really well. I mean, a lot of those thoughts that I had, and I guess the main things to me were, again, as we Zoom, what are ways to enhance the visual effect of the service as we watch it online, but then also as we start to come back together. This is a new way that we can bring additional meaning and enhance the scripture and involve more people too. Involve the members of the congregation who may have talents that they haven't yet figured out a way to share. And I think through this committee, we can really plug people in in meaningful ways.
I love what you're saying about involving other people. I mean, right? We believe that God created all people and gives all people gifts for ministry. And I love the way that you're hitting on that. Do you want to say any more about the importance of that for you all?
I guess for me, I think back to when we did the Awake My Soul piece, which involved Ted, funnily enough, because he and Amanda played, and it was youth involved, but we also managed to truly have an intergenerational group of people that by the end of it surrounded the sanctuary with arms linked, moving to this live music. And it was just such an incredible experience. And I think, not most of the people who were involved would not say, "Hey, I'm a dancer, pick me," but they could walk and they could raise their arms up and they could lower their arms. And that's all it took. But that number of people really, for me, was a very profound effect. So I know that there are probably people out there that think, I can't dance, or I can't, but you don't have to dance to move. We're human, we all move. So that's one thing. Don't let that scare you, that there are ways to be involved in more than just sitting in the pews. And moving can literally be raising your arms up and down and walking. So that's like, everybody could be involved.
That was an amazing moment in worship. I'm glad you brought that up. That was it's still one of my favorites. What about you, Pat? Did you have anything to add to that, or?
No, I agree. And honestly, that experience was one that came back to me as well, Hannah. That was just a lot of fun, and so many people involved and in different ways, and it was wonderful. One of the way that I've kind of gotten involved in this arts worship committee in arts is through this photography group that we've gotten started. And we've gotten people together. People sometimes again think, I'm not a photographer. Well, everybody's got a phone, and every phone has a camera, and you would be amazed at what you can do with that. And so I think we've got people in our group that are much better than they maybe would have thought in the beginning. And so that's just been really fun to see this group come together. And I like what Hannah said about, it's more than just sitting in the pew. It's a way, and that's great too. That, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's, it gives it a little extra enhancement to the worship experience for the people contributing and also for the people watching. So I think it just brings in a bigger group and a different way to appreciate worship.
I love the stuff that your photography group, that contemplative photography group, is putting on some of the Highland private Facebook page, because if you're just kind of scrolling along and you see it, it is so fun to stop, look at it, think about it, and then realize who took the picture. Like, they're your friend. They sat 3 pews over from you.
Right. And yeah, this new Facebook page, if people haven't found it yet, it's Highland Presbyterian Group, and it's got the rainbow banner as in the picture of the group. You'll recognize that. But yeah, there's Angie posts paintings, and we've got the photo group posts to an album each month. We have a different theme, and the idea always born out of contemplative photography. So the idea that when you're out and you're walking around, just to stop and reflect about what's around you, and it's as a spiritual practice. So using art as a spiritual practice.
Absolutely. That is such a helpful way to put that, recognizing that worship doesn't end when we leave the sanctuary, and God doesn't stop. I mean, it's constantly all around us. That is beautiful. So my next question about how does the work of worship arts enhance worship? I feel like we've answered that. But so my next question is, in the March newsletter, the worship arts team made some requests to help us in the future with Easter. Do you all want to talk about those?
So I know one thing that went out was a request for paper flowers, and there are links in the newsletter that basic instructions, and then also for those who feel they would
Advanced?
like a little bit more. The second one has other options that may be a little more difficult. So if you want a challenge, but that we want to decorate for our outdoor Easter service with these flowers, so that we have a beautiful visual of creations from our congregation. So it would be great if everybody could just do one and get it into the church. That would be fantastic. But please feel free to get creative and help us make that worship space that is so different and can feel very unbeautiful to look nice.
That's a good way to put it. That's the backside of the church isn't always the most attractive part. Well, Patty, I also saw that there was a request for photographs for worship.
Right. We wanted to put that out there just to the congregation as a whole, because like I said, anybody that has a phone with a camera can go out and photograph. And for the remainder of Lent, we're focusing on the 23rd Psalm. So if with that as kind of a reflection in your mind when you go out, it's how do you interpret that? How do you interpret different verses of the Psalm, the 23rd Psalm? But even beyond that, there's so many ways to tie photos into worship. I think we'd had some in our group in the winter, when we had all that snow and ice, a lot of people were seeing birds in their backyard, on their bird feeder. And it just so happened that I think it was Clay Gahan's Lenten devotion reflected at the end on birds. And I just was blown away by nobody intended for that to link up like it did, but it did. So I think that even if you're not saying, I lie down in green pastures and you can't find a green pasture, what speaks to you, when you're out? And I would, if people want to do that, and then email those photos to me or to Rob Miller at the church, we'll get those put together. And the idea is to kind of show a photo collage, possibly during the prelude organ music or the postlude, but something to sort of get people into the spirit of worship and, kind of settle down and focus in. So it's really to enhance that experience. But we'd love to have that from anybody that's interested.
That's great. The third ask was for drama and music, in case there are folks who want to sort of be on a drama and music team, be called on when we need that. I bring that up to say, do you two think we can recreate Awake My Soul once this pandemic goes away?
Yes.
It's like one of my dreams.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And like I said, if you can walk and lift your arms up and down, you're good.
What about somebody, Hannah, like Julia? My daughter, she wants to do it. She wants to dance, but she's 5. Is that too little?
That one, we literally did have all ages. I'm fairly certain that Reese at least was involved, and he may well have been about 5 at that time. I know that Greg Sikula and at least Anna, if not Amelia and Abby, were also involved in that big circle. So we had kids in it last time. We had seniors in it last time. So it's a very, very friendly piece as far as, using lots of different people.
Awesome. Well, thanks for talking about that, but you also now have the floor of Highland Presbyterian Church. It's almost like you have your own pulpit. What do you want to say? This is your time. What else do you want to share with Highland Pres?
Well, I would just like to say I'm certainly looking forward to seeing everybody again. Hopefully soon, now that we're all able, or we're in the process of being able to get vaccinated. I've found a lot of closeness among members of our church through Zoom. I feel like in some cases that gives people more of an opportunity to share than you might have had in person in a big group where people tend to hold back. In Zoom, you're in your own square and you just, I mean, people notice and they want to engage each other. So that's kind of been a little surprise gift with that. And then also just a plug for our photo group. It was born out of the idea of contemplative photography. We meet but once a month right now via Zoom. Greg Giesing and I lead the group. Greg's an amazing photographer. So we get tips, we share tips and we share pictures and we just chat it up and have a really good time. So that's always in the newsletter if you're interested.
Thank you.
And I guess I second what Patty says about it. It will be so nice to actually be face to face again when we get to that point. But in the meantime, I think if people have suggestions of ways to incorporate art into the worship services that we are doing now, it would be nice to hear it. We are meeting as a committee, and we have our own ideas, but it would be great to hear from members of the congregation. What do you want to see? Do you have an idea of something that you would like put into worship? And even if you don't know how it could happen, we could, I'm sure, figure something out.
It is certainly a creative group of people, for sure.
Right now we have Angie Andriot painting this incredible canvas over these Lenten services. And that came out of our first worship and our Arts and Worship Committee meeting. But please give us your ideas. What do you want to see? What would you like to be involved in? Let us know.
That's perfect. Thank you. I'm even more excited than I already was now. You are fabulous. This is good stuff. For those of you watching, I would say please join us next week. Next week, we will have special guest Bill McConnell. He works for the national office, so he is going to be telling us all the fun stuff that is going on at the Presbyterian Church at a larger level, a national scale, and specifically what they're working on for Holy Week and Easter. So I can't wait to see that. For now, we'll say thank you to Hannah and Patty. And for everybody, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Doodle.
Sure. Bye.
Cheers.